At Chipotle, we also have a playlist. Guacamole as it's being hand-mashed. The sizzle of adobo chicken on the grill. The chopping of onions and cilantro. We call our playlist Real. Order now. Chipotle. For real.
Crystal clear waters, white sandy beaches. Stress doesn't exist here, but back home, an undetected water leak can turn into costly water damage. Mow and Flow detects leaks and stops your water main automatically from anywhere, even paradise.
Welcome to Board Gamers Anonymous, the podcast where everyone is welcome at the table, but of course, no one knows whose turn it is. This is Chris.
And this is Anthony.
And this is episode 534, Andromeda's Edge versus Dwellings of Eldervale. We'd like to thank all our Patreon backers for helping us unlock a brand new episode. Anthony, we are back, and of course, like always, these Patreon backers always want new episodes, man. They keep unlocking them. We're like, no, they're locked down. No more. We're done. We did over 500. And they're like, no, get out there, kids. Go do one for us. And here we are doing another one for those great Patreon backers that go to patreon.com/BGA and just keep putting us to work, man.
Yeah. Good job, guys. Keeping us at it every week. Bringing my lunch pail, clocking in.
Every time I try to get out, they keep pulling me back in, Anthony. Pulling me back in. Like, do another episode, man. Do another one.
When did you try to get out? I don't understand. You've been on every single episode of the show. I try to get out all the time. I'm like, I got a kid. Now I'm going on vacation.
Internally, I'm trying to get out.
Internally. Okay.
It's very subtextual.
Yeah. I'm having an existential vacation.
Yes. Yes. I have there's a thing. There's a certain level of insanity, I think, doing a weekly episode, and what are we, 534?
So many.
That's a lot. That's a couple, man.
We're up there. We're getting up there. We're way up there.
No breaks.
I was listening to another podcast that I really like that I've been listening to for like a decade, and they're like, we're on episode 500. I'm like, oh my gosh. Wait, I have more than that.
Well, I have a perfect attendance record, so there.
You do.
I do.
Yeah. Once I missed a few, which is way early, like episode 48, I think was when I was out, when my daughter was born. I'm like,
sure.
Well, now I can miss them whenever, so it's fine.
Yeah. You broke. Once you break the ice, that's it. You know. Yeah. It's a trick-taking game, man. That's all it is.
Exactly. Yeah. You have to do it forever.
I have to do it forever. That was the contract.
Your Sisyphean task, and I can come and go as I please. And Chris will come in and fill in for us. And Rodriguez.
Roll the giant D20 up that mountain and comes down every night. Yeah.
Sharp boulder.
Well, I crafted it into a D20 at the very least, so at least I get to have fun with it, because dice.
Yeah. Got to stay busy.
Yeah, you got to be a dice gremlin at the very least. That's always enjoyable. And then, if I roll a D20, which obviously I won't because it's the fate of the universe not to do that, but nonetheless, each and every week we are here. And this week we are here because it's getting personal, Anthony. We're taking it to the versus arena. We haven't done this in quite some time, but we felt that it was more than deserving because Andromeda's Edge, coming out of nowhere from the shadows of Dwellings of Eldervale, the game that made so much noise when it came out that everyone picked it up, and then it disappeared, came back ever so briefly, disappeared again, and supposedly there are some corners of the tabletop universe that says it's actually back out there in some format. So
I have seen it. It exists. It's in stock some places.
Yeah, and it's an amazing thing because this was the biggest game at that time, especially for crowdfunding. And there was just gigantic gaps in between. And then in the meantime, Andromeda's Edge came out, and that kind of took over the spotlight. And now, with Dwellings of Eldervale coming back out, we wanted to kind of compare, contrast, let them fight, and see which one is best.
Exactly. Yeah, I think far too often people maybe get a little reductive in this. They're like, well, if you like sci-fi, Andromeda's Edge. If you like fantasy, Dwellings of Eldervale. And I don't think that's really the answer. I mean, for some of you, it might be the answer, but
Sure.
We're going to talk through some of the other answers involved in this discussion, because there's a lot of things that changed between the two games, which are both designed or co-designed by Luke Laurie, and it's based on the same formula.
Yes.
So naturally, it's a very comparable discussion. So I think there's a lot of things and nuances there. And specifically, one of the reasons that this topic came up is that we sat down a couple weeks ago and we played these games back to back.
Yes, we did.
We played Dwellings with the full 4 people, and then we played Andromeda's Edge with the full 4 people. And it just kind of like had a lengthy conversation at the table about what is one doing that the other isn't, etc., back and forth. And there wasn't like a clear cut, like, well, this is clearly a better version of this. It was an interesting, more nuanced conversation, which I think begets a longer discussion here on the podcast.
It sounds very civil, Anthony. I was hoping for more of a kaiju battling out, let them fight kind of situation.
Oh, we're doing that.
Well,
okay.
I mean,
I think one of us has to hate one of the games for that to work.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, we can hate both of the games. How about that?
We can hate both of them?
Yeah.
I don't hate them, though.
Aw. Well, it could be like Daniel. Godzilla versus Mothra. Like, we still love both of them, but they have to fight nonetheless.
We got to go back and get Daniel. Get him back on the show. He was really good at hating stuff.
Can we rename the episode Let Them Fight, Andromeda's Edge versus Dwellings of Eldervale? Is it too late?
No, that's perfect. Let's do it.
All right. Nice. We're doing things live on the episode, folks. You are here to hear it.
Yeah. This is a little behind the scenes.
Yeah. See, this is what you get for backing us. See? Huh? It's all your fault. You know who you are. You're like, hey, let these guys talk? I guess we're not fighting, so let them talk. Now, we have a great episode for you. Again, there's a lot of nuance to both of these games. And I again, coming from as we often talk about, we are Euro gamers, we're crunchy gamers. Anthony's more in the double 18 double X kind of situation. I have my own flavors of tabletop gaming that I like that are, different than Anthony's. But, we're not necessarily always talking about the hybrid as far as like the Ameritrash, Euro kind of games. And there has been some really great games that have done both. And both of these games do both in slightly different ways. So I think it's a really good matchup, and I think it's going to be a very good discussion. And again, while you're listening to us, feel free to yell out, you guys are wrong. It's because of this, that, and the other. We will appreciate it. People around you will think you're crazy. But again, we will appreciate the fact that people think you're crazy. So it's another episode of Craziness. Welcome. Welcome to the world in which we live in. But let's hang out in the cardboard fort that we have made and enjoy all the fantastic little pieces of paper that we like to play with games. So, Anthony, before we get into all of that versus, we did some things we wanted to talk about. Obviously, we have a fantastic, wonderful, tremendous opportunity to actually sit down, get into it, talk about the nuances, the big stuff, the little stuff, the fun stuff, the serious side of gaming. We have a conference coming up about tabletop gaming, man.
We do. Yeah. We mention this every week, as you know, but it's important. And then the reason we mention every week is because we really want you all to come. We want you to participate. We want you to be part of it. The Board Game Academics Conference, our 3rd annual conference, is coming up in October, which is now just 3 months away, which is crazy.
And I've been to all those conferences too.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
You're hardcore, man.
I know. Both of them.
So yeah, it's going to be at the Strong National Museum of Play, by far our most interesting, best venue yet. We're super excited about it.
Do they have toys there?
They do.
All the toys?
I think so.
From my childhood?
Definitely from your childhood, yes.
Oh, okay. What are you trying to say, man?
saying you're not that old, so
Oh,
they have
right.
all those toys.
Well, they have the stick and the ball. That's really what I need to know.
I definitely have a stick and a ball, I'm sure.
When it comes to curating that collection, which stick and which ball do they actually put on display?
That is the question. For things
I'm going to be able to find that out.
Right? Because I'm sure they have like jacks on display. And I'm like, which jacks are these? Are they like Teddy Roosevelt's jacks or just some random jacks you found on the street?
Are there jacks on the street these days?
I don't know.
You have kids? Are your kids playing jacks?
No, they don't know what they are.
Oh, we can only hope, man. You have to have that talk with them about jacks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, to be fair, one of your kids named Jack.
That is true.
So when he's out in the street, Jack's
only one of him, though.
You had a chance, man. You should have twins.
I was just watching a movie the other day, and The Accountant 2. And it has a scene in it because there's a kid. He's like in a little prison camp in Mexico, and he's playing jacks. Yeah, it is as sad as it sounds. It's a sad movie. It's fine.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the news these days.
Kid survives. He's all right. There's a lot of things with that movie. We'll get into it later on Patreon podcast. But the point is, he was playing jacks, and I was sitting there with my wife, and she's like, "What is that? I know I've seen that before." I'm like, "That is jacks."
Oh my!
You bounce a ball and you pick up some jacks. That's what
right.
that is.
Yeah, that's the original ultimate dexterity game.
Yeah.
Coming to a crowdfunding source for you for only $325.
Oh my god! Yeah. Diamond encrusted jacks.
Oh no, they're gonna do this now.
I think this was supposed to be a pitch for the conference. I don't know.
All right, let's get back to the conference.
So conference October 4th and 5th, Rochester, New York. Hit us up, boardgameacademics.com/register. You can still register. There are tickets available, discounts available for students, adjunct faculty, and K-12 teachers. So if you are any of those, definitely check it out. But yeah, it's going to be 2 days full of presentations, keynote presentations. We're going to have panel presentations. We're going to have special game development poster presentations as well on the side. And obviously, you get to hang out at the Strong National Museum of Play. Your ticket is included with the registration. And we're going to have a special guided tour as well. So we are super duper excited. By far the most, excited I've been for any of these yet. Not just for the conference, which is going to be fun, but just to share the work that these people are doing right now with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll feel smarter for coming. You'll learn about all the great games that you love and how you can do smart things with them. And you'll get to network with some really amazing people. In fact, we just learned this recently, that the largest game store in the United States is in Rochester, New York.
Oh, we're going there.
Millennium Games. And we were really like, I think I'd always had thought that it was somewhere in Minnesota.
I know.
But it turns out the largest game store is up there. Plus, there's a lot of other local friendly game stores too. So we want to try to hit as many of those as possible, get as many games as possible. And it's just really going to be a wonderful opportunity to, do everything all at the same time at a ridiculously discounted price, including the museum and the hotel and everything else. So if you haven't checked it out, please check out BoardGameAcademics.com. And you'll find more information about the conference there. It's a great time, great place to bring your family because they could have a lot of fun. While you learn about a lot of fun, they can come and have fun with us. And then we can all have fun together out there in the museum or at the table. So great time, great opportunity. And also, if you bring your family, you can convince them to let you buy more games because now it's the smart thing to do.
Smart.
Yeah. Much smarter than Jack's, just saying. Not your Jack, but Jack's in general, the game.
No. Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, cool. All right, well, we hope to see you all there. More information coming about the conference as it moves closer. All right, Anthony, so that's what's going on with us. We obviously have some other fun, cool, dangerous stuff to talk about in our After Hours podcast with Patreons, because we like to talk about things that we can't talk about in the podcast because they're so crazy and dynamic and scary and weird and twisted and super nerdy because, I don't know, somehow this podcast isn't nerdy enough.
No, I don't think it is. We gotta dig in and cover all the others, the vectors of the nerd spectrum.
Yeah, so if you have nothing else to do because it's summer, it's boring, and we want to have more tabletop kind of nerdy discussions and all this other kind of stuff, patreon.com. There's a lot of extra episodes and content there, plus a tremendous community of people that you can connect with, especially on Discord. So if you want to find your friends out there in the world, like they are there on Discord and on patreon.com/BGA. Again, thank you all for your support. All right, Anthony, so let's get on to the episode. Let's talk about the games that, of course, everyone is talking about. Let's roll for preview. So, Anthony, this week, the game I want to talk about is the game that's number one on the hotness on BGG because it is a Dungeons & Dragons game.
Yes! That's all I know about it. It gotta be about dragons and rolling dice, right?
Of course it is. Wait a minute.
Right?
Dungeons & Dragons Builders of Baldur's Gate. Anthony, have you ever heard of Baldur's Gate before?
I don't think it's possible not to have in 2025.
Can you give us some of the background of Baldur's Gate, where you might know it from, where people might know it from?
It's from Dungeons and Dragons.
Done.
Yeah, no, it's in Forgotten Realms continuity. It's like the city, right? It's like one of the big cities, like industrial city. It's like where things are built and run. It's a big city state, right?
Yeah,
and there's been 3 now amazing video games based on it, including the one Baldur's Gate 3 that came out a couple years ago and universally acclaimed as like the Dungeons and Dragons video game.
Mm-hmm.
But not just that, like you go back and you look at, all these other amazing, adventures and games that are based in Baldur's Gate. And it's kind of a cornerstone of the D&D universe, like the core D&D universe, the base one that they use.
Yeah, it's in Magic the Gathering. There's also a Betrayal on the House on the Hill. There's a Baldur's Gate version of that. Which
Baldur's Gate, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Dungeons Mayhem. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of tabletop stuff that's all about this. So it's very interesting when a D&D board game comes out, and there's been so many D&D board games that actually have been quite good, and we've been really happy about that. WizKids is producing this because they own the license here, and from acclaimed designer Matthew Dunstan, known from a lot of great games. Anthony, you've played some of his games previously?
Yeah, Matthew Dunstan. So he made the Guild of Merchant and Explorers, which I think is my highest rated game of his. It's in my top 100, which is like a roll and write style game, but you're not rolling or writing. You're just putting little cubes on a map.
Sure.
It's really fun. Like I think you'd like it, despite what I just said.
Oh,
nice. He also made Elysium, Monumental, Pioneer Days, going all the way back to one of our very first reviews. I think like episode 20 or so.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy that because I was just looking at this earlier and I was like, oh, what's the first game this guy reviewed? It's Relic Runners.
Oh no.
So you can go back and listen to one of our very early episodes to hear how Daniel broke that game.
He did.
But yeah, Dunstan's a good designer.
Yeah, I've played I think Monumental is a game I haven't broken it out yet, but I have a copy of that. I also played Scorpion Freighter. I played My Shelfie. I'm taking a look at his list here. A lot of smaller games here. I played a lot of Costa Rica. Obviously, is on that. Dice Hospital. Played some of that. Yeah, no, he's got a great history. Extensive ludology here. So always like to see that. Always like to see, especially with the Dungeons and Dragons name and a WizKid as far as productions. Really, really a great thing. Now, here's what's the interesting thing about this, because, like as Anthony said, we all believe, and this should be a game about rolling d20s and dragons and dungeons. But in fact, because as I mentioned, this is a city building game. So it's all about city building. So when you look at the actual game board itself, it looks like something from so many other games that we've seen before, as far as Euros kind of putting stuff out onto different sections of a board. So Blackout Hong Kong was the board, kind of reminded me of that a little bit. And basically what you're doing is you're growing your business in one of these, in these 9 districts. And as you grow your business, you're building building structures. So it's a city, but again, it's Baldur's Gate, it's that fantasy universe kind of city. And the city has opportunities for you to put out gates and watchtowers and different buildings out there, and you have influence cubes. So again, it's weird, right? Because it's a WizKids game, and at the same time, you think Dungeons and Dragons, you're like, it shouldn't have these things. But if you remember, another great game that Anthony and I talked about, one of our earliest reviews, I think actually, in fact, our first review, if I remember way back when, Dungeons and Dragons, Lords of Waterdeep.
Yeah.
Right? That was a game that was like, yeah, it's kind of fantasy, but basically cubes go on a mission and cubes don't come back from that mission. So that was a very Euro game. That was a very surprising game at the same time. So it is currently on pre-order. It's not out yet. They did have some early kind of demos at Origins that just recently passed. They will not, WizKids will not be at Gen Con as far as we know, unless something changes in the meantime. But again, it's a city building game. Love that idea. Love Suburbia and all that kind of stuff. And then it has those special ability cards that will give you bonuses to build, income phases, so you'll be able to gain more money and resources throughout the game, and then scoring bonuses based upon different criteria. So if you build the most watchtowers or you gain a number of gates that you control, you score victory points. So very Euro game. It just happens to have some of that kind of D&D flavor to it. So take it as you will. I like the look of this. I think this has the promise of being a very cool game. And obviously, as you're building a city, then there'll be these abstract monsters or, raiders kind of hitting certain cities. So you do have to work together in some cases with your opponents. But basically, it's all about scoring points because it's a Euro game, despite coming from a universe of D20s and dragons.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's just crazy to me they didn't even find a way to put a single die in the box. Like, I'm looking at the component list.
Yeah.
No dice. Not a single one.
Well, they used them all up, man. There's no more left.
Yeah, no, there are no dice.
They used all the dice.
Yeah. No, I like the idea of this, though. I'm tempted. I'm going to wait and see how it is. No one's really reviewed it yet. I haven't had a chance to see it or preview it, and it's not going to be at Gen Con, but
sure.
Excited to see what people think.
It is funny that they went with cubes, which obviously fit better into the buildings, but they could have went with like a die, right? Dice are used a lot of times as markers.
Yeah.
That might have given
true.
it a little more flavor too. I like your production note there, Anthony. I'm going to talk to WizKids and see what they can do before it comes out.
Just put a die in there. Like the solo mode, you use a die. I don't know. There should be a D20 in the box for some reason.
First player marker.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
There you go. There you go, WizKids. We took care of it. We did it.
It's a D20 where every side's a 20. It's fine.
It's fine. It's good. It's got dragons on it. There's your Dungeons and Dragons. That's it. Well, no, wait. Everyone rolls the D20 at the start of the game. The highest number on the die gets to go first.
Oh, that's also fine. And you keep the rules. You keep the die.
That's it. It works.
Yeah.
See,
we solved it, guys. We solved it.
It was close, man. It was touch and go there for a while.
Yeah. I was just looking at the pre-order for this on the WizKids website.
How much is this game, by the way? People want to know.
$65.
That's a little high.
And if you pre-order it, you have to pay. It's required. You have to pay a $6.50 tariff.
Are we still doing the tariff thing?
Apparently.
Oh no!
I don't know. They're just throwing 10% on everything and calling it a day. For pre-orders only, but I guess that makes sense if you don't know if the stuff you're shipping is going to be tariffed or not. You're just like, we'll charge you the money, and if they don't tariff us, great. But
we'll keep the money.
Probably they'll keep the money, yeah.
Because
that's capitalism. Woo!
I've heard that from a lot of online game stores that we frequent, is that they've added like a 10% to everything just because, just to keep themselves safe.
It's just risk mitigation. Like, and I don't, whatever. We can go down this road all we want. We can save it for after hours, but
well, it's indiscriminate. It hurts the industry because again, like we won't go into detail because it would go down a major hill. But like the one thing that we have argued or we've complained about or we advocate for, because we've always done it in a very positive way, which is the most important thing that a tabletop game company can do is make the game accessible.
Right.
And that means allowing and having people be able to get to the table, because at a certain point, and the point is different for everybody, but at a certain point, your game is worth X number of dollars to the public. And if it's $10 more, that might be $10 too far. It doesn't
Right.
see table time. 6 months passes. Maybe one or two people say it might be good, and then it's too late at that point because it's been sucked into the void of 1,000 other games.
Right, yeah, we saw how many games died an ignominious death during COVID because people couldn't play it. Right?
Yes.
If the game doesn't hit the table for whatever reason, tariffs, pandemics, boredom, I don't know, lack of
Sure.
stock,
Or price.
or price, yeah, it
Yeah.
could die. So
Yeah, and a lot of the crowdfunding stuff, because the games always seem to now more than ever come with every expansion that's ever been made or could be
Right.
made for it. Now the game is not $65, it's $650 because it came with everything all at once.
right,
And if you don't buy it now, you'll never get it. Which is sad because you want to play it. You know, people will
Right.
buy expansions. I am literally the living embodiment of I will
Oh
buy
my
all of
gosh,
your
I-
expansions.
I can't buy new games anymore because when I buy a game, I have to get rid of one, and I like all my games.
Oh,
so now I'm just like, what games do I need? Do I have expansions I need to buy for?
Yeah.
Because I still like to buy game stuff, but I'm like, there's no room. It's got to fit in an existing box.
It's true.
But yeah, give us a reason.
That's the thing. All right, well, that's our roll for preview. Dungeons & Dragons Builders of Baldur's Gate. From WizKids, definitely check it out. Looks like a lot of fun, and definitely something that hopefully we'll be able to get to the table soon. And again, WizKids, we're only going to take 10%, so, just give us a little bit. That's all we're saying.
Give us some tiles.
That's
Fun.
it. Yeah, a D20 would be great,
D20 would be great. I
Excellent.
could never have enough D20s.
No, we'll be fine. Our names on it would be great, too. I'm just saying,
Ooh, make it happen.
Yeah. All right, Anthony, now on to our roll for review. What'd you play this week?
All right. So I've played a few games in the last couple of weeks.
Nice.
With various birthdays, vacations, illnesses. It's all there's free time baked in throughout the
Jeez.
month of June for me. And so I've had a chance to play a game that I wanted to get to the table for a very long time, but it was kind of impossible to find. This is Urbion, which is the first release in the Oniverse series. So kind of rewind a little bit. Oniverse is a series of games that actually started with Urbion way back in, I think, 2012. But it really kicked off for real with Onirim Second Edition. Onirim Second Edition came out in 2014. And then very quickly after that, we got a succession of sequels to that. We got Sylveon, Castellion, Natilion, Arion, Siberion, so on and so forth, right?
Wow.
I think there's, looking at my collection now, I think there's 7 of them. And so Urbion was always the kind of the black sheep of the family that's just kind of sitting off in the ether somewhere.
Mhm.
Like the first one that wasn't Onirim. And I had never played it because it was just released as a Z-Man, very small box card game. The same as Onirim was at first, but when they brought, Shadi Torbay started making more of these, Onirim was the one that got reprinted and had a bunch of new stuff for it.
Sure.
So, it's just, in general, all of these games kind of have a similar vibe, right? It's a very similar style of artwork. They're all in a similar style of dreams meet nightmares kind of art style and world, and they all say 1 or 2 players. They do all have 2-player modes. They're ostensibly all solo games. So I don't know, Chris, have you played any of these?
I think I played the original first one, and that was a long time ago. And,
Right. Yeah.
And I do play the one on the app. So
Oniverse. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it. I'm surprised because I don't play a lot of solo games. I do play a lot of games on my phone that are board game based. And the Onirim is interesting because obviously it's standard kind of you're just playing one deck of cards, you're playing cards, it's somewhat puzzle like with obviously the randomness of the cards. But
Right.
then the artwork, which isn't really detailed or super immersive, is some of the creepiest thing I've ever seen in a
It's great.
card or tabletop game.
I love it.
it's like really spooky. Like it really kind of chills a little bit. Like when I play the app and it's like and then like this shadow night terror comes out and like grabs your cards like like that. Not a fan. Like I really want to win that game because that game is literally night terror grabbing you or you getting the doors to get out of there. So it does a very good job of that. Even the card game, which I think I do own somewhere, but it's a small card game, so it kind of gets lost. But
yeah,
it's really a surprisingly good game for someone who's not a solo gamer.
Right. Yeah. No. It caught me very early on. I think I was at the Complete Strategist in Manhattan. Like I was working in Manhattan at the time, and I was like, oh, I think I've heard of this. Oh, it's a solo game. And at that time, I had a 3-year-old, and I was like, solo games are great. That was one of the first games I talked about on the Table for One later every night it's game night podcast.
It's much better than when you were playing 18XX versus your 3-year-old. I have to say.
Oh yeah, destruction.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, but he did destroy you
several
times.
He's fine. He doesn't need therapy or anything. It's all good. He's 14 now. He's good.
Show me on the railroad map where Dad throws. Yeah.
Oh man, you know what he used to do though is we would play Imperial Settlers.
Oh nice.
And I would play Imperial Settlers, but he would. There's a lot of little bits that move around, and he would take his Tonka trucks and just pick up all the bits, put them in the truck, and move them to the different cards and drop them off for me.
Very cool. I like that game. It's a good expansion.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The toddler expansion.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, this is a great series of games. I have all of them. There are some that are amazing. There are some that are not so great, but generally there's a thread of quality throughout. Special shout out to Elisa Plessis, whose name I'm probably saying wrong, but she has done the artwork for all of these, and seemingly those are the only games she has illustrated. So I think that's an interesting take. So you can go to her website, and she has a lot of really cool artwork there.
No, too scary, man.
Too scary. Yeah. There's some regular looking art on there.
All right. Some of us need to sleep at night. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So Urbion. As I said, Urbion was the very first game that Shadi Torbey published. It was kind of in this universe back in 2012. And it did fine. People thought it was cute and clever. Had similar style artwork, but it never got that big box treatment. And what the big box treatment is you get this square box, and it comes with the base game, but it also typically comes with these Torbey modern games come with between 3 and 8 expansions. So basically progressive ways to make the game more interesting, more complicated, more brain burning, right? And so we finally got that last year. At the very end of last year, we got Urbion 2nd edition. And so I've been playing a bit of this lately and kind of just trying to re-rank in my head the Universe games. Because again, I have all of these. And this one is interesting because I had not played it before the rest of them. And so it's almost like going back in time and being like, oh, this is kind of like the proto version of what would become these other games. And that's not bad. The game is actually fairly interesting, but it's also a little basic in terms of what it does. So Urbion, very quickly, what you're doing is you have a deck of city cards that you're going to draw from. You're going to have a column of 4 of them. And the goal of the game is to clear all of them. So if you can clear all of the city cards before the game ends, you win. If you don't, you lose. Done. Right? As you draw those cards, you're going to pull from the deck of dreams, and you're going to place them either on the left side or the right side based on if they're positive or negative. Now, he has a specific word that he uses for these. I think it's succubi and songnai or something. Basically, dreams and nightmares, which is a common thread throughout all of his games. Even if you look at the cover, you've got the dark, scary nightmare in the top, and then the little hamster thing in the bottom. Mm-hmm. So the goal is, as you draw cards and as you take action, is to create balance in each of the cities. And then when you take a future action by discarding a card, you can clear all the cities that have become balanced. However, each of the cities has specific icons on it, and so the cards you play have to match those icons. And in Torbey fashion, there are chaos cards in the deck. And when you draw a chaos card, it has to go in a certain spot based on the layout of the map, right? You can't choose where that one goes. it's going to go in the place that has the most cards on one side or another, right? And if you can't place a chaos card, other bad things happen. You start discarding cards from the deck, which shortens the game, or you discard other things. So it, like all of his games, this is a puzzle in which you are trying to, as efficiently as possible, manage the deck that you have to get all these cards out and to clear all the cities in an efficient way. So it's a placement puzzle. It's keeping track of what you've played. It's managing what you have. It's when you discard a card, because a lot of the actions you take require you to discard things. When you play it, or when you discard a card, you can use that to swap cards in the city. You can use it to do the census, where you get rid of the cities, you actually complete them. But once you discard that card, it's not available anymore. So it's all about managing all that. And sometimes it comes down to the luck of the draw, because it's a solo game. And again, this is like the earlier version of that.
Sure.
But I appreciated it. I thought it was pretty good. There was a little bit of a lull there for several years with the Oniverse. There were some games that I didn't think did as good of a job. So, Onirim is the classic. I think that's still top of the heap for me. I still think it's one of the better games. Sylveon and Castellion came out shortly after that. I really enjoyed both of those quite a bit. Sylveon is like a big card tableau where there's like fires burning through a forest. Castellion is like a tower defense where you're building up these tiles and trying to defend your castle. When we got into like Natilion and Arion, I feel like they got a little bit looser, right? They're trying to do too much. That Natilion was fine, but a little too much for me. Arion, I just found kind of boring. And Stellarion, I found just bad. Like, I just don't like that one.
Yeah.
Siberion, which is the one that came out just before Urbion, is actually quite good. I gave this a review, I think last year or maybe the year before. This was my favorite solo game of that year. And it is the highest ranked one on Board Game Geek. So I definitely recommend that one. This is one like where you're like setting up automatons and managing these different robots as they kind of sabotage the machines that you're building.
Yeah.
So Urbion for me is a play.
Okay. Not bad.
It's good. I have all of them, so I'm going to keep them all. I just collect these. They're small. They're not very expensive. They're like $25. So I'm happy to have them. They're no longer published by Z-Man, so when they publish them, they're actually possible to get because they make more than 5 copies. So I have fun with that. And in terms of my ranking, it's probably in the middle of the pack. Like,
sure.
If I'm going to rank them, fully, it's probably Onirim, Siberion, Sylveon, Castellion. Urbion's in there somewhere, and then the other 3, which are down at the bottom. But yeah, it's good stuff. If you like solo games, check these out. I wouldn't say go buy all of them off the bat. Like, look and see which mechanics make the most sense to you. Do you want a card game? Do you want a tableau management game? Do you want like a tower defense style game? Do you want more of an automated like programming type of game? He's got a bunch of them. And I think there's at least 1 or 2 more. Like, there's usually a little booklet in the back that tells you like what's upcoming. And I can't remember what the last one is. Like Ultimion or Ultimanium or something. There's another one coming next year. But yeah, Shiny Torbay games are fun. It's cool to have this kind of relic of the past. I say relic, it's 13 years old, but it's cool to have it.
Now, can you rank it by scary artwork?
Ooh, scary artwork. Let's see.
This is what really matters.
Yeah, Arion's pretty scary. It's got like a kite that looks like it wants to eat you on the cover.
I saw that.
That's
what are they trying to do to children here?
I don't know.
They're like, you know what you don't expect? A kite.
Yeah. Everything else is pretty abstract, but that one's like, that kite is going to eat you.
You never expect the kite. It's silent. It just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. The Sylveon one I always found kind of scary, and I remember it scaring my son when he was little. It's supposed to be fire eating the forest, but it's like an embodiment of fire with teeth.
Yeah.
So it's kind of scary looking.
All right. Well, there you go, people. Scary solo games that play really fun, which is nice.
Yeah. They're good, and they're fast, too. They're not like these big sprawling monstrosities that a lot of modern solo games are.
Yes.
These games take like 15 minutes to play.
Oh, my goodness, I tell you.
And like 4 pages of rules. Very quick.
I played Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition again, just because we were talking about it recently.
Mm-hmm.
and I played solo, and I looked for the solo rules, and I found them. This isn't the base game, not with the expansions, because the expansion does have a co-op solo mode, and it was like, yeah, here's all the rules for the thing, and I'm like, it's just a turn tracker. That's all it is. It's just a turn tracker. It's like, you get the cards and you line the cards up, and every time you take a thing, you flip a card, and then when you flip all 5, you move the thing. And I'm just like, that's it? You just I don't need that. Just play 25 rounds. Okay. So I really appreciate when they actually make a solo game. Because that's
these are designed as solo games. Like,
yeah.
I don't think I've ever played any of these as a 2-player game. I don't know how they play 2-player.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, like maybe someday I'll drag you in and we can figure it out. But
scary.
Yeah, scary artwork. Get him.
Oh no.
Attack.
Ah. All right, everyone. Well, there's our roll for review. Now on to our feature review. Let them fight. Andromeda's Edge versus Dwellings of Eldervale. Anthony finally came to this. We are talking about 2 games that are so similar, they might as well be the same game, but 2 radically different universes. We have sci-fi versus fantasy here.
We do. We have people putting houses on their heads.
They do, yeah.
Versus ships being devoured by weird buildings.
I know, just giant weird buildings. It's kind of funny, too, because it seems the way most designers go is first you create the fantasy-themed version of your board game. That's the original. And then you do a sci-fi version of it.
Which is way bigger and more complicated.
Yeah. So, and we've seen that in a lot of other game genres out there, too. So, and obviously, now here we are again. Yeah. I don't know why that's the natural progression, but it seems to be the thing, right?
Right. Yeah. So this is, again, Luke Laurie,
yes.
designer of Dwellings of Eldervale. And Luke Laurie working with it's
Maximus Laurie?
Yes, right, son.
Yep.
So kind of the family work over on Andromeda's Edge. And so Dwellings of Eldervale was originally done by Breaking Games. It was a Kickstarter campaign. Very successful. Very nice production.
Too successful, some people would say.
Right? Got to all the people. And then they're like, oh, we don't have more copies. We don't have the money to make more copies. It's going to be a while.
It's crazy.
And I think you and I played this a few times very early on when it just shipped out. And we're like, we love this game. It jumped right into my top 25 on my top 100 list. So it's like, I love this game. Could not get a copy.
No.
Got on the mailing list. Got on the other mailing list.
Yeah.
It was very confusing. They would send all these emails like, it's going up. It's already down. I'm like, how are you doing these pre-orders? Yeah. After 3 years, why have you not run a new Kickstarter for this game?
I
don't understand. And then Andromeda's Edge went up as a GameFound campaign like 2 or 3 years later.
Yeah.
This game just shipped last year. And I want to say Dwellings of Eldervale came out, what was it, 2001? Or was it?
Are you talking about Dwellings of Eldervale?
Yeah.
Or that was 2020.
2020. Okay.
That was the dark times.
Right. It was right before COVID. Right. So
yeah.
that's when we played it.
Andromeda's Edge came out from Cardboard Alchemy. So different production company, same designer, give or take.
Right. So the designer took that formula, and we don't know the backstory, so I'm not going to speculate too much, but took that formula and said, I have more ideas. I can expand here. We can make it prettier. We can actually run a big campaign and everybody can get their copy.
Yes.
And they did that. So
they did.
Now we have both versions. Dwellings of Eldervale finally seems to be available semi-regularly. I've seen it on a few websites. I've seen it on sale a couple times.
But to be fair, it's not the full, it's not all the bells and whistles that came with the original Kickstarter.
No, right.
So,
and that is one of the bullet points I have pulled up here that we'll run through on these games as table presence.
Well, I know once we start talking about it, people are going to go run out and try to back this thing, and we just need to let people know right at the bat. It is not the full fancy version. Just keep that in mind. We'll get there. So before we dive into all that, though, I don't want to run through the rules for both of these games. That'll take too long. We have reviewed both of these, so you can check back in older episodes for that. Yes.
But the common theme here is that it is a game in which you have workers and or ships that you send out to the shared map to collect resources and then settle in some way, right? You're
Yes.
trying to either create these settlements or build out these different locations, and you
It's
score
a
points.
worker placement. It's a worker placement out there.
Worker
Yeah.
placement and then worker retrieval.
Yes.
And so you are both populating the map and doing things out there, but then also pulling your people back and activating abilities that you've created in your own personal tableau.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that combination of tableau building and worker placement, and it really flows together fairly seamlessly.
Yes.
Both games have a different way of approaching that.
Yep.
But they both do it in a similar way. The core mechanics are kind of the same.
Mm-hmm.
So where the differentiation comes in is in a few different places. We have theme, we have kind of the general table presence, the actual components of the games, which you can get into, the complexity and gameplay additions, going from the first one to the second one, and then the length and overall flow of the game.
Sure.
So, first up, theme.
Yay!
Theme.
It's theme, which is really important in tabletop gaming, so you don't get bored while you play a game for 3 hours.
Right. And this is good. This is a good one.
And they did, again, like I mentioned earlier, they did the same thing that the earlier, I guess, prototypical kind of games did, which is like Terra Mystica had this high fantasy universe.
Right.
And then later on, they were like, let's make this slightly more complicated, complex, and let's do it in space. So Gaia Project.
Yeah.
And we'll do, you know how you like the tracks in Terra Mystica? Well, now here they are again, but more complex. So even though these games that we're talking about their own thing, I gotta believe like they must have taken serious notes from Terra Mystica and the Gaia Project.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's the first thing I thought of when they put this up. It's like, oh, it's the Gaia Project for Dwellings of Eldervale.
Yes. So you were mentioning theme here. So again, obviously Dwellings of Eldervale, we're talking high fantasy. We're talking dragons and monsters and knights and, you know, peasants out there turning into houses and stuff like that. So very Tolkien-esque, very much like that kind of fantasy monsters and things like that. Spells are big in that game. So
yeah, and all your factions kind of match that. You have like your orcs and your dragons and your wizards, and your core pieces are, like you said, you have your workers and then warrior, wizard, dragon.
Yeah, that's really important to mention too, because those are the same no matter what faction you choose.
Right.
And there's a lot of factions in that game. And for each color, there's 2 factions. And basically what it comes down to is 2 of your pieces, whether it's the dragon, the wizard, the warrior, or the peasants, workers out there, may have an ability or 2, which kind of changes the game up. And I love that because it's we recently played the gigantic Suburbia game and had all the colors with it. And those colors didn't do anything. These colors do. They do a thing.
Yeah.
Very important for the game. Yeah.
And like in a worker placement, one of the best ways to make it interesting in a genre that's kind of stale is to make some workers different than other workers. Right.
Yeah.
This one has a special ability. What is it? There you go.
It does a thing. And then Andromeda's Edge is obviously a sci-fi setting, abstract. It's not a specific IP, but you'll probably notice some legally distinct IP elements, like, you know, certain ships look like certain enterprising ships.
Yeah. The science vessel is definitely
rounded,
it has the
in a
quote unquote voyage ability.
There you go.
Yeah.
And even the fighter ship obviously looks a little notice. We've seen those ships before. We've seen them, which is great.
Yeah. It's something battle, something star.
Yeah.
Something.
It's one of those. Yeah. One of those raiders kind of ships. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's great. And again, it has kind of a similar thing where, but unlike right out of the bat in Eldervale, you know, like you have special abilities for these 2. That's what you're getting when you upgrade them.
Yep.
In Andromeda's Edge, you have a special ability for your faction, and then you have upgrade tiles for each of your ships that then give those ships special abilities, and then those are randomized every game.
Yeah,
that's kind of one of the first major thematic differences. Is you're going to have a unique layout of ships and faction every time you play, and there's thousands of combinations. Yeah,
so when you get the Andromeda's Edge, you have that, like you said, you have that faction power, which is not double-sided colored like it is in Dwellings, but you do have at least the faction power, and then one ship will have a special power, and then there's all that kind of randomness with the extra ships that come into play, which
Right.
that part I really do love. I take to that, because even if I'm playing the same faction every time, having those possibilities of special ships with special additional abilities really just kind of makes it an endless replayable game.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. So theme wise, yeah, it is very much sci-fi, but then like sci-fi gives you all these elements to expand on.
Sure.
Versus fantasy, which is a little more closed.
Yes.
The nature of those genres.
Yes.
Table presence, I think we kind of get a similar thing, right? Because Dwellings of Eldervale, it's a pretty condensed map, and there's not a lot else going on there. You have your separate track for like the different like magic powers or whatever they're called, and your own personal player board, but it's not a huge table presence. It's relatively condensed.
It is.
Whereas Andromeda's Edge has a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff.
Like, even in the retail version, it's a big board. There's a lot going on the board. There's a lot of tiles going on to that board. Your own personal player space is fairly big, and it's going to grow because your tableau that you're building is bigger than what you would build in Dwellings of Eldervale, just due to some mechanical differences, which we'll get into. It feels more sprawling.
Yes.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, I think we talked about this when we actually played the game, and I mentioned to you, like, Andromeda's Edge for a sci-fi theme does the thing that all somewhat modern-day sci-fi games do, is, like, black background and then, like, neon colors for the ships and the space and stuff like this. And I said to you, because, like, sometimes that bothers me because they go a little bit overboard with the fluorescent colors, and it doesn't feel like space anymore. Feels like something completely weird and different. But this one doesn't go that far. So it keeps a very formal presentation while at the same time being colorful enough that it's not like just like Gaia Project, I feel like is way too bland. I think that's a very bland presentation of a sci-fi universe. It's not a bad game, but again, I think it's just like...
It's so flat.
It's really, really flat. Now, Dwellings, I will say, on the other side, for a fantasy game, like you said, you've seen a lot of that before. I will say the one thing, as far as you were talking about presence is concerned, is the non-playable, well, somewhat non-playable monsters or characters that come into play.
Sometimes playable.
Yes, sometimes playable. So, in Dwellings, you have more of a toy aesthetic because they're the monsters that come onto the board with the deluxe version have sound bases.
So cool.
It's so dumb, but it's cool.
It's
like
dumb,
I love it. I'm loving it. So you have this little sound base and you put the monster on it, and the sound bases are for like particular colors. And then you put the sound base and you put the monster and go, or whoosh, or like, and I'm like, I love it. It's just...
My favorite moment from that last play was like, and we all do this when we're thinking sometimes, we like tap a component.
Oh yeah,
or something. And you had dominated one of the monsters, which is a mechanic in the game where you can take that monster and now it belongs to you as a worker.
Yeah,
right?
like a ranger. Yeah.
Right. And when a monster comes out, same in Andromeda's Edge, like one of the raiders come out.
Yeah.
They have an ability that affects the whole map.
Yes.
Right. So as long as they're out, that happens. So you had like this cloud nimbus, which basically made it so everybody could jump further ahead, like the dragon could. And so as long as that was out there, you could do that. And so you were like tapping it against the side of your head.
The sound base.
Rah, 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 rah. And one of the players is like, are you doing that on purpose, or are you just thinking? You're like, oh, I'm just thinking.
Like, not originally I was thinking, and then once I caught on to what I was doing, I played into it, which was fantastic.
Yeah. It was
and again, this is one of the main reasons, and I haven't checked it recently, but this is one of the main reasons that I haven't purchased Dwellings, because the game feels incomplete without those sound bases, and I guess there was the werewolf monster or whatever else other kind of, like, that really makes the game. Like, that's the presence of the game. Other than that, the pieces are nice, the board's nice, the module kind of thing's fine, the card art is fine, like, but the toy factor there is fun. And again, we talk about this a lot. Like the cost of games is somewhat problematic. We were just talking about it early in the episode. But you actually do play with the monsters. You do run them around the board. Other players utilize them. You can capture them. You can attack them multiple times. They are a very big risk reward kind of situation. And I love that about the game. And that really makes the game, it makes the game stand out if it's on the table somewhere, especially with the sounds. Like, what of the game has sounds that's, coming from the game board itself?
Right.
So I love that. And I think it's fantastic. Andromeda's Edge does not have the sound, which I was really disappointed by. I was expecting to have some sound.
I know. It has some amazing miniatures for those raiders, though. Some
Beautifully,
really cool.
Really cool, abstract, unique designs. I don't think we see similar designs in like other sci-fi IPs. So I appreciate that. Very cool, but also one note colored, right? Like the two colors, they seem like to be all that, like that metal / ice glass kind of look to it. So they're all of a similar type. Again, thematically, it can kind of work because these aliens are coming out from Andromeda's Edge, from like this unknown area. So they could all be somewhat similar, makeup. But you never really feel the uniqueness to them. Like they're physically look different, but they don't necessarily stand out as much.
Right. Yeah. We should also note here, like we are talking specifically about the crowdfunded versions of these games.
Yes. 100%.
The retail version of Andromeda's Edge is very affordable. You can find a copy for $55. Amazing value for the game. But
standees. Comes with
all
standees,
these monsters we're talking about are standees, as well as like the buildings that you're putting out there. Whereas the version we're talking about is like big honking plastic pieces, which are very cool. But that version of the game, they have not republished it to GameFound. It's probably $200 or $300 to find a copy.
Yeah, so maybe then Anthony, like I think we both would agree that the retail versions for both these games is fine.
Yeah,
but I will say, I do feel like it substantially makes the game better to have the plastic and or the sound stuff on the board. Standees are not bad. We've seen it in play. It's not bad. So don't feel bad if you don't have it. But I feel like this type of game where the ships or the pieces go out on the board, I think you need something like that. I just think you need it.
It's rare that I'll come out and say like the toy factor matters, but I really do think it matters in this game. Because going back to point one with the theme, I think it really like brings the theme through.
It does. And I think you need to do that because they do play a big role in the game. They're not just decoration.
They're huge. Yeah, they follow you around. They change the rules.
Yeah.
They make people mad. They kill you. It's great.
Yeah.
All right. So that's kind of the theme and the layout and what you're seeing on the table. What about the gameplay changes? So we talked about kind of the core gameplay, which is really just what Dwellings is, right? It's worker placement. You're putting your people out there. You're picking up resources. You're converting your workers into settlements. And ultimately, the goal of that game is to get all of your settlements out there, which is all 6 of your workers and all 6 of your buildings, or to finish the map. That's how the game ends. So that's just what you're doing. And at a certain point, it feels like you're just kind of like chugging through it and fighting for that space. Andromeda's Edge is a little bit different because it is a more of a point-focused game. So the focus of Andromeda's Edge is there is a point level that you're trying to reach. When somebody hits that triggers the end of the game. You finish that round, you get one more round. And so you can choose how long you want the game to be, 50, 60, or 70 points, but then that's it. And then everybody's going to score like 100 more points after that because there's a bunch of end game scoring.
A lot of scoring at the end, yeah.
And the reason for that, I think, is one of the most significant additions gameplay-wise is the tableau, right?
Yeah.
Because in Dwellings of Eldervale, you have cards that you can purchase. They're kind of expensive. You're using all those resources that you picked up. But you're buying these cards and they do various things. You build a tableau in front of you and they have different effects and they do different things and you can power them up with these orbs that you get from the different tracks. In Andromeda's Edge, you are adding modules to your kind of master ship or whatever it is. And those are going to activate when you bring your ships back. So, like some worker placement games, Zolkin or some of those other ones, you put workers out, and when you're done putting them out, you can take a turn to bring them back. And in this game, you can take those workers that you brought back and you place them on modules to activate things. And you can then power those things up with energy to activate more things, which I think is an important addition here in Andromeda's Edge. And so a lot of the scoring, a lot of the resources you get, a lot of your income kind of comes from that action and how efficient of a tableau you build up. Which, having played Dwellings of Eldervale a few times, that's there, but it does not feel like a huge part of that game as much as in Andromeda's Edge. If you don't have that tableau in Andromeda's Edge, you're not going to do well.
Sure.
That is the game to me.
Yeah. I mean, the developments are important.
Yes.
And they will score you a lot of points, especially early in the game. And they do give you a tactical advantage as far as control of certain areas, or at least military support. But that tableau building is a very interesting puzzle. And there is so many modules. There is a lot of modules, man.
So many. 4 different types, and each type has like 50 or 60 to choose from.
And then there's the purple ones that are kind of randomly thrown in there as well, which kind of, and then the prices of those are kind of random too, because they don't like, there are some that are certainly more powerful than others, but just basically how they come out, it might give you an option to pick those up.
And you can attach moons to kind of power them up.
Yeah. Now, Dwellings also has that situation, as you mentioned, when you purchase those cards, a lot of those cards, or some of those cards, at least your basic starting card, has spots where you don't put moons, but you can put a resource. So you can activate that resource to get more resources. And that's what the moons do in Andromeda's Edge,
right,
is they'll give you additional resources, again, if they are slotted correctly. Both games certainly has where you can spend those resources to automatically get that thing, or again, slot it and lock it in for kind of long-term situations. So both games I really enjoy, because Dwellings of Eldervale does have that kind of like basic worker. You have the warrior, the wizard, the dragon. You can find those in every faction. And it's really nice screen printed pieces. So all good. The Andromeda's Edge, as we mentioned earlier, Anthony, the different ships with the varied powers is something I get to build towards and get excited that eventually I can be able to put these into play. And that really works very good for me. I like that a lot. Both games has that kind of return system, like you mentioned earlier, where it's a worker placement game, but it's almost more important when you return your workers, because in Andromeda's Edge, you're gonna set off all those different modules. Obviously, somewhat similar, but a shrunk down version of that in Dwellings of Eldervale, where usually you could build a settlement, or you can get a resource, or you could put out another piece on the board. But again, you only have 4 pieces, whereas Andromeda's Edge, you have a lot more ships. It's a lot more to kind of put out there in that game. The modules are kind of interesting because it can build your own victory condition in that particular game. And it reminds me of like Terraforming Mars, where like there's stuff that you need to do on the board, but also there's stuff you need to do in your tableau. Both could win you the game, depending on how things work out, which I like a lot.
Yeah, which is good. But I do like, and this kind of gets to the last point, whereas in Dwellings of Eldervale, the end game trigger requires people to do things on the board.
Yeah.
So if people don't do things on the board and they focus on their tableau and they're building up points, the game kind of drags a little bit.
Sure.
It feels fast in the first half, and the second half, you're like, why is this game not over yet? Right?
Yeah.
It feels longer than it should be. Andromeda's Edge, regardless of what you do, you're going to score points. If you put developments out, you're going to score points. If you bring in modules, you're going to score points. If you do, like, there's a lot of things you're going to score points from, and that's going to push you towards the end of the game.
Yeah, that crisis track with the cards. Yeah.
We haven't mentioned that at all. Like the kind of the in-game timer that goes,
or at least it pushes it forward.
You have this track, right, that moves forward, and then you draw a card, and it gives you it has a scoring condition. So you've moved up various tracks from taking various actions. Now you get points. Everybody gets points, and that's going to push the game forward. It just has to. Like, you can't stall it. So it doesn't have the Terraforming Mars problem where everybody's focused on their tableau and ignoring the game reality. You have to score points. It has to push the game forward. I really appreciate that a lot. Because we played Dwellings, right? And we actually had to take a break because the game was going too late.
It was.
We were like 2.5 hours into the game. We're like, let's call it for the night because, and I'll admit it was me. I was about to like lose my shit. I was so tired. And so we took a break and we came back the next day and we played for another hour, hour and a half. Like the game was 3.5 hours, which is not
Sure.
obscene, but it's kind of long. We played the long version of Andromeda's Edge with a couple people who hadn't played before, and we finished in like 2.5, 3.
Yeah, it's tighter for sure. It's
Slightly
more
shorter.
structured. It's more structured where Dwellings is more open-ended because you can continue to put people out, or you could sit around on the board a little bit, and the spells, which are also kind of like hit and miss, depending on what you get, is going to allow you to do a lot of different things. Like it does a lot of those things. But in Andromeda's Edge, when you pull back, you pull everything back.
Yeah.
Like, that's a serious mode in the game. That's not just like, oh, I'm passing this around. Like, no, this is a thing that we all need to do because it's very important to the game. And I think the most important thing that we should mention, because we talked about a lot of the Euro elements of this, but it is a Amerithrashy kind of game because you're attacking each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you attack, you just roll dice.
Yeah. But I will say Dwellings of Eldervale is swingy because you could roll a 6 with 1 die, and the other player rolls 6 dice and gets like just 5s.
Yeah.
Which is
that's
cool,
true.
but also weird.
I mean, and Andromeda's Edge has the same mechanic,
but
it introduces an interesting element with the targeting value, where if the number of ships you have there, or it will determine how many dice you roll, but also what your minimum targeting value is. So, like, if you put 3 ships there, then everything you roll has to be at least a 3.
Yes.
So you re-roll all your 1s and 2s. In Dwellings, if you don't have a thing that lets you re-roll, you don't re-roll.
Remember, I literally rolled 6 dice versus, I think, the Golem. And I think he was rolling 3 or 4, and I got like 1s and 2s. And I was just like, well, there you go, people. That's
right.
That's the first 3 or 4 rounds of the game where all my people sit in dismay there. But also, one of the things we should mention too, obviously, Dwellings of Eldervale has spell cards that can mitigate some things. Yeah. But Andromeda's Edge, I think, does a very much better job with their cards, because there are diplomacy cards that could stop the battle right from the front. And then they have their combat cards, and a lot of their other cards do a lot of different things. I love that deck of cards.
The tactics deck is awesome.
Oh, so much fun. All of the cards, sometimes when you play games and you get like for example, when you play Dwelling of Eldervale, it's like, do you want to have +2 damage or +2 dice on your attack? Or do you want to score 3 points at the end of the game? I'm just like, well, I don't know.
All the cards I drew in that last game we played of Dwellings was like 3-point quests.
Yes.
Like, I'm going to have to try to complete this thing. I get 3 points. I'm like, that's fun.
Yeah.
And it probably won me the game, but it's not as fun as like the cool stuff you can do in Andromeda.
Yeah. And then Andromeda's, again, they have those diplomacy cards. And each of the diplomacy cards do different things. So I think I had one that like I could withdraw, but I have to pay someone to withdraw.
Right.
Or I could withdraw, but I swap a ship out. So it was different variations, plus the attack cards, plus other kind of ongoing production kind of stuff. So those tactic cards were really fun to get.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed having a handful of those just to be able to play, because it just added to the game.
And there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them. A lot of diversity, too. I really appreciate that, too. And again, it's a lot smarter as far as like, I'm just ending the battle. We're just not going to battle here, because
we had like 3 or 4 battles in a row where one of the players was like, diplomacy. Yeah. We're not battling. It's not happening. Sorry, we're not doing this.
Which, again, maybe you want more battling, but again, it's a smarter tactic, and it fits more thematically with the game that all of these different factions and races are somewhat in a general alliance, because they're all visiting the same alliance bases, but every once in a while they attack each other. So that makes sense.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we've kind of touched on a few things. Where do you land in this fight between Andromeda's Edge and Dwellings of Eldervale? What game would you choose?
It's a difficult one, to be honest with you. I think what I own Andromeda's Edge. I own the big fancy version of it. I still want to own Dwellings of Eldervale. Mm-hmm. And if I do have the opportunity to pick it up with the little sound markers and all the extra Kickstarter stuff, only at that level will I pick it up, because it needs to be able to have all the bells and whistles to compete with Andromeda's Edge. It's not a bad game if it doesn't have those. It's just like these games are so similar that it needs to have that in order for me to want to own or need to own both. These are expensive games.
Yeah.
So I have to have that. On top of which, I do think that Dwellings of Eldervale is better for casual, lighter game players, right? The fantasy elements make a lot more sense. Oh, it's a wizard. Of course it teleports versus a ship that does something like that, or, a fighter or dragon. What these people do make a lot more sense. At the same time, the Andromeda's Edge one is definitely more strategic, long-term strategic, right? As Anthony was mentioning, like building up your tableau takes time, but it does pay off dividends. And sometimes you have to give up something small term. In Dwellings of Eldervale, you do not want to wait. Like you want to score your points throughout that game hard. You don't want to build towards anything. That's not necessary. In the end, the key point here that you brought up was Dwellings of Eldervale. When I played it, I did feel towards the end of the game exhausted. Like I did feel like the openness nature of it and the requirement for the battling to move the game along, it got a little too long. And I feel like this game needs an expansion to kind of speed it along a little bit, because if it's going to be lighter, it needs to end sooner.
Yeah.
And Andromeda's Edge, when we played it, as you mentioned, it did play so incredibly tightly that I wanted to play a game again right away. I really wanted to put together a new strategy tactics. Like it was a new game for two people. I was teaching the game. Anthony was helping me with that. Like there was a lot of other stuff that was going on, but I never got bored of it. I wanted to see the new tiles that were coming out. I wanted to see what the requirements were to build it. And I think also with Andromeda's Edge, we didn't play with some of the more destructive elements, tiles and cards, which is something I definitely want to play with, because I think we keep playing with new people, and I want to play with the more heavy kind of antagonistic kind of stuff of the game too. So Andromeda's Edge is my choice here.
Yeah, I think I fall in the similar boat for a few reasons. I think you mentioned several of them. One is, I really enjoy everything you do in Dwellings of Eldervale.
Mm-hmm.
I had a similar feel at the end of that game of, why is this game still going? Right? I was ahead, and I was just like, I think this game, I don't think it matters what we do. Can we just get to the end of it? Right? It drags out a little bit. On the flip side, with Andromeda's Edge, I really enjoy kind of the tertiary actions, the things you get to do around the core of the game. Like the core of the game is the same in either game. Like you are sending workers out, you are building things, you are fighting each other for dominance in specific areas, you're moving up tracks related to the actions you take, and you're scoring points at the end of the game based on those tracks and where you are and those different things. Like all of that is the same in slightly different formulas and different flavors. But the stuff you do around that, I find more interesting. The tactics cards, they give you that great feel. The tableau you build with your modules, that's so much fun. The flexibility you have with the modules, like, do they come in damage? Do you choose one that doesn't come in damage? How do you manage that damage? The kind of push-pull element of the score, where you're like, if you feel like your endgame score isn't great and you don't want to trigger the endgame yet, you can kind of hold back on certain actions. There's just so much interesting decision space in Andromeda's Edge that I really appreciate, that Dwellings of Eldervale has all of, but not to the same depth. It does feel like what you said, like an expansion to Dwellings would look like Andromeda's Edge.
Yeah.
And ultimately that's what happens. Is the designer stopped working on Dwellings and went and made a different game instead, and it adds all those ideas and thoughts and iterations that came out of the experience of having made the first game. So I don't know that we'll get that fix for Dwellings anytime soon, but if you really like the fantasy element, if you like the loosey-goosey, more like exploration adventure style gameplay, which a lot of people do, and I totally respect that, then Dwellings might be a good fit for you. But for me, as a Euro gamer who wants that crunchiness, who wants every decision to feel like it matters, and there's no like empty turns where you're just like filling space or somebody's hitting you to knock you out of a space just to keep things going. Like that Terraforming Mars frustration in like round 9 where you're like, can we just end it, please? And And then Andromeda's Edge for me as well.
Well, I think the danger and the challenge with Andromeda's Edge is it could have went too long.
Yes.
Because the tracks all do things on the tracks. There's a lot of stuff that happens on the tracks, like almost too much that happens on the tracks.
Right.
So, and like you mentioned, there's just a lot of stuff. There's a lot of factions. There's a lot of special abilities. Each ship can have a special ability, possibly. And then now you're at a point where, like, how much time does each turn take? And I think it avoids that. I think that was the one danger that could have made Dwellings of Eldervale, triumph here. Like, it's just quicker, it's faster, it's more gateway friendly, it's a little more open, it's a little more fun. But it seems like Andromeda's Edge has done enough of that, but also added the complexity without the hangover that a lighter, easier version of Dwellings of Eldervale kind of gave both of us a little bit there.
Yeah.
So both great games. Again,
yeah.
Be happy to own both. I think you'd probably be happy to own both too. If it was,
I would. If it wasn't $100 and didn't come with the fancy bits, I would buy it.
Yeah, it's got to come with all the fancy. I need the sound, man. I mean, it's got to have the sound.
Give me the sound.
I can't play the game without the sound.
Sell it separately. That's fine. I'll go buy it separately on your website, but sell them.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's the fun of the game, is like all these different monsters. And if you're going to have monsters and sound bases, again, bravo, man. You did a thing that someone else hasn't done. Then let us all be able to do it. I'm just saying.
Right. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, there you go. Our Versus is back. If you have any other ideas of games that you like to, let them fight, we would be happy to bring them back out to the arena to fight to the death and let you know which is the latest and greatest of all time. But until next time, this is Chris.
Hey, and this is Anthony.
And we'll save you all. Let's see you at the table. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Hey there, Hugh from Poderation here. If you like today's show, why not check out Make Believe Heroes, a family-friendly D&D show for all ages. Join our eclectic, lovable cast as they explore the world of Manumi and beyond in a show that's designed for everybody to be able to enjoy. If you'd like to hear more, check out our website at poderation.com.